Hi everybody, nice to be here. And it's even nicer to be around a bunch of video junkies. That's cool, very cool. So anyway, quick story. I'm from Colorado Springs Utilities, Forest Service municipal utility. About 10 years ago, a colleague of mine and I found out that a general manager had a camcorder, a very nice camcorder, in a closet in the basement of one of our facilities. So we promptly ran over there and asked him if we could look at it. Sure enough, it was a Canon XL1. Very nice camera, nobody had touched it in a couple of years, so we asked him, can we take it with us? And he said, absolutely. So what we started to do is we started playing with it. We started thinking about ways we can incorporate video into our training products. And we came up with something that our manager really liked. And so we started using video in our training products. And then we discovered that our CEO really liked to be videotaped. And he loves the ability to communicate to the organization. He was on board. So that was kind of how we got started with video. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some things that we've learned, give you a little snapshot of what Colorado Springs Utilities does as far as video production. And I want to talk about the 3 phases of video production. But before I do that, I wasn't sure the experience of folks at this conference, but I'll give you kind of some quick things that you might want to consider if you haven't really dug in yet. There's a before you begin phase. And I'm going to go over the highest of the high points because I only have about 7 minutes. But some of the things you might want to consider, somebody mentioned it already, is IT is your friend. If you can make friends with your IT department, they can make or break you. Talk about the technologies you want to use. Talk about bandwidth. We did a lot of testing early on, and they were on board. A lot of people at the time in our organization were just kind of doing whatever they wanted, and they really liked the fact that we were asking them for advice. We were working with them closely when we were testing. So they were on board, and they were more than willing to help us work through this. Management buy-in. Sometimes managers are the ones driving video for training purposes. It kind of worked both ways with us, and of course up the chain, up to our CEO. So that's been nice. They've definitely bought into what we're trying to do. So it's worked really well. Technology standards. If you can figure out what sort of technologies you're going to use, what file formats you're going to push out as far as video is concerned, especially if you start spreading the wealth, if you will, as far as video is concerned. You don't want folks at this facility rolling out this file format and these folks doing something else. Then things get really convoluted. So I would highly encourage that you look at standards for the technologies you're going to roll out. And then, of course, you have to align with your company's strategic destination or goals if you want to make things align perfectly. So that's kind of in a nutshell before you begin. Also, before I jump into the first phase of video production, I thought of something that might help you all as you leave here. Hopefully you can use it. If not, that's fine. But I came up with a document called Video Production Tools. And this document shows you some of the tools we use at Colorado Springs Utilities and general cost for some of these tools. Now, as somebody mentioned earlier, the cost has come way down. So take these ranges with a grain of salt. You can do a lot with a little equipment, and not a whole lot of money. So keep that in mind. Another document I have for you, I think it's on the flash drive, is something called Video Production Tips. And I've broken it down into these 4 categories. Before you begin, and then the 3 phases of production. So we learned a lot of this through the School of Hard Knocks. And so hopefully you won't make some of the same mistakes we made. We just kind of learned as we went along. And there's still a lot to learn, but hopefully that will help you. And finally, video terms, links, and resources is another document that gives you a wealth of links. Things like, is it worth it to hire a voiceover professional? Video terms, sites that give you information on storyboarding, storytelling, so forth. So take that with you, and hopefully if you have questions, I'm more than happy to correspond via email or give me a call and we can talk. So let's talk about the 3 phases, as we call it at Colorado Springs Utilities. Pre-production. So pre-production, there's a lot to think about, a lot to plan for, but some of the high points here is, number 1, somebody mentioned it earlier, include decision makers, include the general managers, because nothing is worse than going through a project and then somebody higher up says, wait a minute, this isn't really what I had in mind. So if you can bring everybody on board, it makes life a lot easier, makes the workflow flow much better. If there's two things you can leave with today, from my perspective, and again, somebody mentioned this earlier, is script and storyboard. Back in the day when we first started, people were coming in, winging it, improvising, trying to get through their videos, and it just was not working. We had to work closely with our executives if they ever came in and wanted to give their spiel on a project, and they wanted to improvise. And we've worked through a lot of those issues. But if you can script it, all the better. Involve all the stakeholders in your projects in the script writing process. Somebody mentioned, how do you motivate a SME to write the script? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. One thing that has worked real well for us besides food, somebody mentioned food, take them out to lunch, always works well. But sometimes we'll get some information from them and we'll start the script writing process. And that kind of gives them an idea of what we're looking for. We call it making the script video ready. So once we start it, we give them a draft and they look at it and go, oh, this is what you mean, and they run with it. So 99% of the time they run. As long as you get them started, it works real well for us at least. Storyboard, if you're ever going to go out to a site to shoot, if you're going to shoot in-house, we do both. Storyboard is very important. People need to know what they're going to say, how they're going to say it, how they're going to interact with folks. And so even if it's stick figures and boxes, Bob walks into the room, says hello to Sarah, and they start discussing a topic, whatever. It just really helps, gives you a format, gives you a solid schematic of what's going to take place during the production phase. Carefully choose a location. We've been in situations where we're out at the field and it's 12 noon and the sun is cooking us, and there's a person on camera who maybe doesn't have a lot of hair. The shine can really mess with your video production. Power to the shine. We've seen that before. Be prepared to tell your talent, your actors, that you may need some makeup. So just consider that. Or a hat. Hat can work. As far as location is concerned, we've been in situations where we're preparing to shoot footage, and the guy on the lawnmower decides to start mowing the lawn behind, or something. It never fails. Something happens, so you have to really take all that into consideration before you shoot. We've seen it all. Believe me. Lighting and audio. Lighting can make or break your production, so be aware of lighting. Read up about lighting. You don't have to buy the $20,000 lighting setup to make things work. Reflection can work real well. But consider the shade versus direct light, time of day, early morning, maybe when the sun is low might work a little better for you. Audio. I'm an audio junkie. I'm a recording engineer as well, musician, so I really care a lot about the audio quality. Onboard cameras simply don't work very well. So if you can, consider things like lavalier mics, wireless lavalier mics, or shotgun mics that can capture sound with a higher quality. You can always degrade the high quality later if you need to optimize it for distribution. But when you have a poor sound quality and video quality for that fact, it's hard to make it better. So start with as high quality as you can, and you work down if you need to. Attire, clothing. I tell you, we've had some situations where folks show up to the video shoot early on and they're wearing a Hawaiian shirt, they're wearing pinstripes, and it really messes with the quality of your video. So we always email our customers, our SMEs, to wear something neutral. A bright white shirt in the daylight doesn't work very well. So we kind of help guide them. We always keep some Colorado Springs Utilities shirts, polo shirts available just in case. And we sometimes even ask them to bring 2 sets of clothes, just, there's a backup. Voiceovers, something you might want to consider as far as narratives. I know sometimes the SMEs will do it for SOP type videos, but if you're doing anything else, we've done both. We've used SMEs to narrate, we've used ourselves. We don't think we do a great job of it. So we discovered a few resources, professionals who can turn it around in a day. And one of the nice things about hiring a professional is it really stresses the point with our customers that it has to be ready by the time we send it to the narrator, the voiceover pro, because there's been times where we record and they say, I don't like that, can we change it? I don't like that, can we change this? And it ends up being a nightmare as far as managing that. So it really in the last year has helped us gain support from our customers to make things right before it goes out to the recording phase of the narrative. Lastly here, you use a checklist, a lot of stuff to think about, a lot of stuff to take to a site. Highly recommend a checklist. So let's jump into production real quick. Bring your script, whether it's on cue cards, if you have a teleprompter that works, but use a script and bring it to your site. Unless you're looking for the shaky cam ER type of look, I would strongly suggest that you use a tripod no matter what. Sometimes it's impossible, I realize, but use a tripod whenever possible. And here's a big one. I could talk about this all day long, but coaching your talent. I tell you what, we've had some CEOs, executives, people who come in and talk about, perhaps the importance of a safety processes for training, and they kind of give their 2-minute thing. One of our executives wouldn't blink, and he was staring at the camera and he wouldn't blink. And so, how do you tell an officer that, dude, you need to blink? It's kind of spooky. So we work closely with our customers. We tell them our goal here is to make you look good. When you look at yourself on camera, we want you to say, damn, I'm good. We don't want them to cringe and kind of be embarrassed about things. So we talk openly about the coaching process. We want them to look good. We want them to be proud of what they look like on camera. Be nice about it, too, is always helpful. So again, bring backup supplies to your site. Batteries, we've had situations where batteries are gone. We had no backup. This is early on. We've learned always bring lots of batteries if you need to. Test your lighting, test your audio. We always have somebody on site with headphones on, the audio guy checking. Nothing worse than coming back to post-production and finding out that the audio isn't there. So you always want to make sure you have audio, listening to it, looking at your levels on your camera if you have that option. Very important. Log your clips, log your scenes. Thank you. Log your clips, log your scenes. It's always important to know, if you do this ahead of time, in post-production, during the final phase, you can identify where you need different clips of your video. Early on, we just kind of shot and shot and shot, came back, and we were examining every clip, and it just took forever. So we got a little smarter about that and worked pretty well. Anybody here ever heard of B-roll footage? Yeah, for those of you who might not know what B-roll footage is, basically it's backup footage. If you ever look at any kind of television show or movies, if you're going to shoot footage of a power plant, take a shot of the power plant from a distance. Take a shot of the sign on the power plant. Take a shot of things on the exterior so that when you go inside and shoot somebody in there, you can pan away and you can... sometimes people will do quirky things with their faces, and sometimes it's an opportunity for you to cut away and show the power plant. Hey! As long as their voice sounds right, it works. So we've used that technique quite a bit, but it kind of gives the audience perspective where they're at. So consider those things. So post-production, here's where it all comes together. In my opinion, here's where the fun really begins. And here's where shooting your footage well can really make a big difference, because we've had situations where customers will come in, we call them talent or actors, and take 25, take 26, take 27. It's tough, and you have to coach them and work with them. Sometimes you have to just kind of move on. But if you get quality video up front, you won't spend an enormous amount of time in post-production trying to fix things, trying to slice and dice and bring 2 seconds into these other 4 seconds and making it all work. So if you can have quality video up front, you will save a lot of time on the backside in post-production. So keep that in mind. So again, this is why it's so important to plan ahead. So review process, we typically publish to a web server internally. We have big pipes. So our IT folks let us use as much bandwidth as we want, and we send out a link to our customers. They review it. Sometimes we will review it all together. And please review, submit your constructive comments by Friday, COB Friday. If there's anything that you don't like, please let me know. We'll fix them. One of the things I would caution folks, and we learn again through the school hard knocks, but sometimes people might get caught up in, well, I don't like the soundtrack because the guitar sounds funny to me. Well, sometimes you have to kind of balance. Is it worth it to go back and recreate that or do something? So by post-production, usually everybody's on board. Everybody's been part of the process, managers, general managers if necessary. So there are usually no surprises when it comes to reviewing and publishing the content out.